no helicopters have been procured for me to go to golf course. Thank you.
I've never said he wasn't a great politician. I'm just saying he's a
It was supposed to be an interview.
How'd you play out there today?
Well, I found the conditions challenging. Mostly because there's no grass on the golf course, but there never has been.
I'm thinking about the swag bag, and I had high hopes for the swag bag.
Trash. When you got 3 crevices on the green, your course is trashy.
What is happening, folks? Welcome back. Beltway Golfer Podcast, episode 45. Your host, Alex Dixon here. We are a week removed from the Wells Fargo Championship out at TPC Potomac at Avenel Farm, the first tour event in the DC area in over 4 years. I had a blast. I went out for 5, maybe 6 days on site, 2 days volunteering with a ShotLink team. Weather wasn't ideal. Friday and Saturday, skies opened up, made for some interesting playing conditions for the players, made for an interesting day for myself, 12 hours on ShotLink on the 16th and 17th greens, you know, in the pouring rain, tapping in the shot locations into a tablet. Still had fun, you know. I was cursing the weather a little bit there on Friday, but I enjoyed myself. Also had media credentials for the first time, so I got to pop in and out of the media tent, which was pretty cool to just kind of experience that and meet some cool folks. A lot of national guys and local. Rex Hogger, Dan Rappaport, bunch of local folks that either I know or know of. So it was a lot of fun. But maybe the most fun I had the whole week was Thursday. I really just watched some golf, focused less on kind of taking pictures or video or volunteering or anything. Met up with a couple buddies, had a couple cocktails, and we followed Denny McCarthy around for his second 9, which when he finished, he had a share of the lead of the tournament. Granted, it was only round 1, but the atmosphere around his back 9 and just around like the scores table and where they're signing autographs and doing interviews, it was fun. It was kind of, you know, it was a little bit of a scene. He had, you know, family members, friends, old high school, grade school coaches. It was just kind of, it was a fun atmosphere. Unfortunately, the tournament result wasn't exactly what he wanted as he slid back into 25th place. But it was a cool day, and it was cool to watch. And even cooler is the fact that Denny McCarthy agreed to come on the podcast, and we sat down and taped this interview the Tuesday after the Wells Fargo. So last Tuesday, in fact, we start off talking a little bit about the Washington Capitals, and the game we were talking about was Game 5 of the Panthers Cap series that the Caps gave away in the last couple minutes and lost in overtime. But it was cool. I set aside 45 minutes or asked 45 minutes from Denny, and we ended up going over an hour. So he was very generous with his time. You know, he's a stud. He's one of the best putters on the planet. Twice he has led the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting. He's only been on the tour for 5 years. And over the course of the last 4 years, cumulatively leads the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting. So he is a ridiculous putter. And I think it's only just a matter of time before he gets a couple wins on tour. In a lot of these interviews and podcasts that I do, you know, I write down my questions and topics beforehand, but I always seem to forget to bring something up. The one thing in this podcast, it wasn't much, but I kind of wanted to ask him about it. The first time we met was at a first tee event. It was the first tee of Greater Washington, D.C. Pro-Am held at TPC Potomac last year. And I got offered to come out and kind of act as a volunteer where you drive a pro around for the day, which is typically done by, I think, like a teenager or someone, you know, much younger that drives a pro around. It's a cool experience. I was doing that, and I got paired up with Denny, and I just kind of wanted to ask him about that first moment he saw me. He gave me a once over and just decided to drive himself. So I spent the day riding shotgun. It was a super fun day. I got to chat with Denny for several hours. So it was still really cool. It was just kind of a funny moment. But one thing I will say is Clint Sanchez, the executive director of First Tee of Greater Washington, D.C., who's been a guest on this podcast, did mention to me as well that Denny is exceedingly generous with his time with the First Tee. You know, does a lot of work with these first teams, shows up to some of these pro-ams, doesn't ask for anything in return. So very cool, Denny. That's about it. Let's get to the interview. Here it is. episode 45 Beltway Golfer Podcast, Denny McCarthy. Real quick before we get to the interview, first, 4 Craft cocktails, Transfusion, pre-mixed in a can. You've heard me talk about them before. Based right in Richmond, small business, really growing fast. Today, available in Virginia. They've got a store locator on 4craftcocktails.com. Every time I go there, it seems like they're adding more clubs, more courses where you can buy the Transfusion in a can and drink during your round. Also available at just about every Total Wine in Northern Virginia. And I know they're working diligently to get approval to be available and for sale in Washington, D.C., in Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina. So stay tuned. And if you go to your local course or club, ask them if they have 4 Craft cocktails. If not, if they're familiar with them and when they're going to get them. It's a delicious drink. Pre-mixed, premium vodka, grape juice, ginger ale, lime juice, ready to go. Not a mixer, already mixed. I enjoy them very much. 4craftcocktails.com. Did you watch the in the press conference? You mentioned you were all over the Caps playoff run. Did you watch the Caps game last night?
Yeah, I did. That was pretty disappointing.
Brutal.
I mean, I do feel like the Panthers outplayed the Caps for most of the game, but that just felt like a typical Caps playoff loss. Like, it was like, I haven't watched them too much in the regular season. My dad was like, I was watching the game with my dad, and he was like, I've watched the Caps a lot this year, and he's like, I've seen this happen. Like, once they scored the goal in the third period with like 2 minutes left, he's like, I've seen this too many times this year. I know how this game ends. And I was like, just relax, like, it's fine. And then sure enough, they scored in overtime. He was like, I saw that coming from a mile away. And I was like trying to keep a positive outlook, but I felt it inside too. I felt like once the Panthers scored, I was like, man, they have all the momentum. I felt like they looked a little sharper. I felt like they were getting more chances. Although the Caps had like, I don't know, 3 to 5 like good breakaway chances, and they barely got a shot off like on those breakaway chances. It was like we were both just like, are you kidding me? Like, how do you not get like a better shot off than that? But that was it's like, of course, they missed the empty netter by 3 inches, and then 30 seconds later they score, and then they lose in overtime. It's like they had a chance to not put the series away, but definitely have a stranglehold on the series. And now it turns into a best of 3 with, possibly playing 2 games in Florida.
What's the announcers back in the studio were like almost got in a heated argument talking about whether or not he should have, I think it was Garnet Hathaway, whether he should have gone for the empty net as opposed to just kick it out and waste time and control it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
One other quick hockey question. Have you ever seen, because I made a whole t-shirt out of this. I'm just curious if you ever seen, have you ever seen the YouTube video of Ovechkin playing at Springfield Golf and Country Club where he claims he got a hole-in-one?
I have seen that video. I probably saw that video like 7 or 8 years ago. I mean, it's a while ago now, right? Like did he actually make a hole-in-one?
Who knows? But he claimed, because there have been interviews since over the years where he's been asked about it, and he says straight face, "Yeah, I've played golf once and I have a hole in one."
I mean, my brother would be pretty upset. My brother's been playing golf for 30 years and he doesn't have a hole in one. He's a pretty good player, so he probably despises Ovechkin or his comments about it.
Right? Yeah, I've been playing for 30 years myself. I'm not any good, but I don't have a hole in one myself.
Hole ones are hard. You got to hit a good shot, but you also got to get a little lucky. Do you have your own count? I have 4. Yeah, I've actually I made one my last year at UVA, and that was my first one. And then I made one a second ball in a practice round at a US Open. I counted it at the time because I only had one other hole-in-one. But then I made 3 hole-in-ones a year ago. Like, I made 3 hole-in-ones in 9 months. So then now that I have 4, I kicked that second ball practice round out because it just doesn't seem real. Right. So I have a fake 5 and a real 4.
Got it. Well, that's 4 or 5 more than most. All right, so today's Tuesday. We're a couple days removed from the Wells Fargo Championship. Obviously, there was a lot of press with you because you're the hometown guy. You did I counted. You did 3 different press conferences, a lot of local folks, a lot of interviews. 2 days away from it. What's the overall take of the whole week?
Yeah, I felt like I played like 2 or 3 tournaments in one. Honestly, I've pretty spent the last few days. I didn't think about picking up a club yesterday. Probably not picking up a club today, and I probably won't do anything tomorrow. But it was a great week. I mean, just to have all the family and friends out there and feel the juices early in the tournament. I think I mentioned to a couple reporters that Thursday and Friday kind of felt like Sundays to me, honestly. Like I've been there a few times this year where I've been in the mix on Sunday, and I love that feeling. And I kind of felt a little of that Thursday and Friday, having a nice crowd, playing well. Name was towards the top of the board. It felt really good, honestly.
And, Thursday was a scene. Thursday was
great. It was great. I mean, that obviously the weather, that was the best weather day too. So a little disappointing with how I finished. Once I kind of realized on Sunday, midway through the back nine, even a couple holes into the back nine, that I probably didn't have a chance to win anymore. It was a little deflating. I tried to do my best to kind of keep my head on straight and still get a good finish out of it. But that's just like, I wanted to win the tournament so bad. And sometimes, I know what it feels like to want it too bad. But I didn't really sense that when I was, out there. Like I was still like, each hole just felt like such a journey with that type of weather. Like each hole was like its own journey / battle. And like with the rain and the wind and, dealing with trying to keep things dry, and it's a hilly golf course, trying to catch your breath. Like, if you hit it in the rough, like it was just such a battle every hole. It was exhausting. Like after Fridays and Saturdays round, like I went to bed for I ate dinner, like we ate like a late dinner at my parents' house, like 8:30 dinners. And I went to bed like right after, like I couldn't even keep my eyes open after dinner. And it was a lot of fun. I think the weather, I would have really preferred if it didn't rain and stayed fast and firm, just because that plays more into my hands. Me being a not so long hitter and cold, the golf course just played really long for me. And as much as I would have loved to just try and grind it out, I just had a lot of long clubs, and it just didn't really. It played more into the hands of somebody who hit it a little further, as a Max Homa, a Keegan Bradley, a Rory McIlroy. Right. It didn't quite play as long for them as it did for me.
I have a few questions I want to talk about, because Thursday was a lot of fun. I followed you your last. I think I picked you. You started on 10. I picked you up around 17 or 18. So I followed your last like 10 or 11 holes, and the scene around the scores table was just really cool. But before I get there, like, I'm just kind of curious, and this is kind of just a general question, because you mentioned it, like on Sunday, when you do realize that, like, this probably isn't my day, I'm not going to win it. I was talking with a buddy of this, like, how hard is it to like maintain, good? Because I mean, golf's hard enough as it is.
Yeah. I think when it's almost in my experiences, like when you're there most of the week, which I was there Thursday and Friday in the mix. Saturday, a little bit of a setback. I was 4 back going into Saturday, and then I go into Sunday 6 back. But I still felt like, with how hard it was playing Saturday, like even though I was like 3-4 over at whatever, I still, I chipped in on 18 for birdie, which felt like, that was like, if I don't get that up and down and make bogey, like I'm out of the tournament. I fall back to even, and then I'm 8 back. But chipping in on Saturday, like, it was a tough day, and that being my only birdie, chipping in and maybe having a 2-shot swing to only be 6 back felt like, okay, like that was a nice little boost. Like, I'm ready to go into Sunday. Anything can happen. It's going to play tough against Sunday. I know I'm playing well enough and putting well enough where, like, who knows? I could go out and make a couple birdies early, feel the hot putter and just kind of like, go unconscious. Once that didn't really happen, I did birdie 10 to get back to even for the day. I think I was like 5 back at the time. And then 11's probably the hardest hole in the course. And I had a decision to make. It was like, I was in between 4-iron and hybrid. The way I was playing 11, I was playing 11 pretty conservatively. 4-iron would have been almost like a layup short left of the green. I was in between 4-iron and hybrid. It was like, well, I'm at a point where like, I probably got to give myself a look here and try and make birdie. And I hit hybrid. It ended up in a bad spot, ended up making bogey. And that was kind of like, man, it was kind of deflating. I just made a good birdie on 10. Felt like I had to go for something a little special on 11. Didn't happen. And then it's like, man, I guess. And then I hit the cart path, went out of bounds on 13. It was like, well, shit, there it kind of goes. And,
Right.
It didn't like rattle me that much at the time, but it definitely just took a lot of wind out of me. It was pretty deflating. It's almost easier, like if I had started the day in 40th and had a good round going, and like, it's almost like when you have something going and you're in 20th place and like you feel more energy to kind of like go make another birdie or two and finish 10th or 5th. But like when I was around 5th place all week and dropped down to 20th, 25th with like a couple holes to go, it just like doesn't feel it just feels, you have a little more taken out of you. Like you don't feel as energized. Whereas like if you're coming from behind and making that charge to 20th, you know what I mean? Like, dude, does that make sense? Like
Totally.
It was a weird feeling, but it was still a great week.
Is there any difference? I mean, obviously this was a tournament probably more so than most others that you really wanted to win, but like when you're, around 20th, I think you finished 25th, like, do you care if you come in 17th or 19th? Like,
yeah, at the time, no, but then like you look back at it, you're like, man, if I just, didn't make that silly bogey, like, cause every point and dollar matters at the end of the year.
Sure.
I've experienced that. I experienced that a few years ago when I was finished the regular season 63rd. And then like the first playoff event, I made the cut. I ended up, being 72nd or something and missing out on the second playoff event by like, 5 or 10 points or something. So
yeah, at
the time you're like, yeah, like at the time it's like, man, it's just, I don't even care that much right now, but that wasn't my attitude. It was still like, man, I still want to try and grind this out and have a good finish. It's just harder, after 4 days of what I went through and like the weather we had, I was just tired. I was emotionally and physically kind of spent. So it's hard to like, and I spent so much grind. Like I made a lot of really good saves for par and bogey. And once it gets down to that, like, it's like, I just didn't really have that much left in me to really make that final push to finish 15th. Like that, It's like, that's the best I was going to do once it got to a certain point.
Well, Thursday was Thursday was a lot of excitement. Obviously, it was round one, but what was really cool about your round on Thursday was I think Jason Day finished in first place, but when you or in the lead at the end of Thursday, but when you finished, you were in the lead. You had a nice little crowd, and like just the scene around the scorers table. Like I saw your mom getting interviewed, your dad I think was getting interviewed, like two guys I think were maybe like your grade school teachers or coaches or something. They were getting interviewed, and like, I saw Steve Buckhantz was running around, and like, it was just like, it was almost like this little, I think some of your buddies were probably there. It just, I didn't really know anyone personally, but it seemed like almost a little, like there was this little party just kind of seeing you do so well on the first day. There was a lot of excitement. What did that feel for you?
Yeah, that felt great. I mean, like I said, it kind of felt a little bit like a Sunday, and everyone was probably acting too much like it was a Sunday. It was just the first round of the tournament. Obviously, it was cool that, I had a share of the lead at the time, but in my mind, it was like, yeah, it felt like a Sunday, but in my mind, I was like, it's just a good start. Like it's a good start. Like for me to like really wanting to win the tournament, I had to be like, this is just a good start. There's a lot of golf left. I'm I didn't want to like get out like, oh man, I'm leading the tournament. Like, this is amazing. Like, yeah, it is amazing, but it's like, I was still, there was still a lot of golf that had to be played. And if I wanted to truly win the tournament, I couldn't get caught up in that. And it was nice to, have that moment, I guess, where, I had a good first round to see my name up on the board. But to me, it was just like, it was a good start to what I was trying to accomplish that week.
Yeah, sure. What are your thoughts? I'm just kind of curious about your thoughts on the course, how it handled the rain. I'm curious, like, did you get any chatter from other players about, like, were they complaining about the rain? I mean, obviously the rain was, they're probably complaining about the rain. It wasn't ideal, but just the overall feedback on TPC Potomac.
Yeah, I thought it held up great in the rain. I think they have sub air greens, which is basically they can kind of suck the moisture out of the greens. So I think the really hard part was, it's why it made it such a hard test on the weekend, is that the fairways were still wet, really wet. Like, we weren't getting any roll in the fairways, and the greens actually firmed up a little bit. So that's when when I mentioned to you earlier that it became a tall task for me, because I'm not the longest hitter, so I'm not getting any roll. I mean, I was hitting some drives like 260, cold, windy into the rain. And then I'm left with a 4 or 5 iron into the green, a small slivered angled green with a tough pin. And I'm coming in with a 4 or 5 iron to a green that has firmed up, actually, because of the way the greens are there. So, I mean, it was different. It was a lot different. Holes that I'm used to hitting, 7, 8, 9 iron in, I was hitting 4, 5, or 6 iron in to a green that's, angled, like I said, tough pin, actually some bounce in the green. It's like, I'm not just going to stuff this 4 iron as much as I'd love to. Like, a good shot here would be 30, 40 feet. Whereas Rory McIlroy in the group behind me is going to drive it 40 yards past me, and he's going to have that 7, 8, 9 iron that, that I would like to have to this pin. But I just, and that's something I talked to my caddy about. I've never really like gone on a speed chase. I think I'm athletic enough where I could go probably gain a little bit of speed without getting too crazy. But I'm just like, I'm driving it so straight right now, where like, I don't want to go try and chase something and like lose my accuracy. So I got caught kind of in a hard spot there on the weekend. I thought the course held up great. Obviously, there are a lot of walks and low spots that were really muddy. But the fact that we played without any delays, really, I mean, the tee times on Friday, my afternoon tee time got pushed back 10 minutes. But the fact that we were able to play with no real delays, I mean, speaks volumes to the crew and probably the work they had to do to kind of get the course ready. And the fact that we played with no delays is kind of incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the podcast before this one on Beltway Golfer was the director of golf course maintenance, just kind of talking about pre-tournament. Sat down with him last week. So I also want to ask you about, so on Wednesday, I followed you around a little bit. You played in a pro-am with some of the first tee folks. Yeah. And one of the gentlemen that was in your group, I don't know if you know this, his name is Leonard Long. He played at Morehouse, but he was on this podcast as well. He's my guy. You can give me some critique of his game.
Yeah, Leonard was great. I loved his move. I was like, I guess they played with Rory on the front, and Jakari and Leonard, I guess, did an interview with Rory after. They were good players. And then like Leonard and Jakari came on like 11, and Leonard hit this like 2 iron off 11. It ended up going in the water, but I was like, man, that was a nice move. Like, who is it? Like, that was a nice move. He smoked it. I was like, who is this guy? And then he started hitting some shots. I was like, man, this guy's pretty good. And I got to talking to him. He said he played in college, and I was like, yeah, you got a nice game, man. Like, your action's nice. And he was like, oh, thank you, man. Yeah.
I think I tracked you guys on 12, and he made I don't know, he made like a 20-footer, I think, on
he did
12. Yeah.
Yep, he did. He made another birdie. He hit another close shot. I think he birdied 17 and maybe he made like probably 2 or 3 birdies when he stuffed a wedge on 15. He birdied 15. But I was impressed with his action.
So that leads me into my next thing, which is I think I saw Justin Ray tweet out the other day that since I can't remember if it was 2018 or 2019, but you're still over 4 years leading the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting over a 4 or 5 year stretch. So if Leonard was smart, he was asking you for some putting tips. What's the I'm sure this is the most common question you get, but how did you become such a good putter? Like when did that start?
I think it's more of a mindset, honestly. I've always been a competitor and a grindy athlete, and like I've just always tried to find little ways to get better. I think I mentioned that when you were there in the press conference a week ago Tuesday, like me finding ways to get better. And I've never really had a putting coach, so like I've always just kind of like almost like trial and error with my putting, like what works well for me and like what do I see well on certain putts? What are my tendencies on left to righters to see? And like, what are my tendencies on right to lefters? Just like experience of all the golf that I've played in trial and error. Like I've just like collected so much data in my head. And there's a lot that goes on in my head, like while I'm putting, but I feel like it's my what I do in my putting is actually very simple. Like even though there's a lot of things going on that I'm processing in my brain, I feel like what I actually do is very simple.
Is there something like when you're back home, like I don't know if you're playing with some of your buddies from Argyle or some of your high school teammates or what, but when you see non-pro golfers and you see them on the green, you're one of the best putters in the world. What is there something common that you see your amateur buddies do on the putting green that you're like?
I think a lot of it starts with green reading. Like obviously you got to be in the right ballpark of where you're looking. I think I've always seen things very well, just the ability to read the greens and then kind of translate that into like, okay, how am I gonna this putt's going in at 8:00 and like this ball mark is a great like aiming point, great apex or great start point to kind of like where I want my ball kind of curving around. So like and I've mentioned this before, like treating it more as an art form, like being artistic with it and having fun with it, as opposed to like worrying about my stroke. And like, I do a couple drills to kind of groove my stroke, but then like, once I do that, like, I'm not thinking about what I'm doing in my stroke. I'm thinking about, the art of each putt. Like I like to line my ball up. So I'm lining it up at the spots that I've picked and tracked for my ball to kind of enter the hole. And, I see a lot of amateurs just kind of be like, what do you think? Like a 20 footer, they'll be like, what do you think? Just like a cup out left. I'm like, well, I don't really look at it like that. It could be a cup out left. It could be 2 cups out left, but I kind of just see it rolling over this spot. Like for me, picking something more as like an intermediate target helps me a lot more, as opposed to like, just like looking a cup out left from 20 feet away. That doesn't help me that much. Like it's hard for me to aim at a cup out left from 20 feet away. Like I see something that's maybe in line with that, but 15 feet closer to me, 5 feet from my ball that I see.
Yeah.
It's just easier for me to kind of like process like how the putt's going to like be rolling throughout the entire way, as opposed to just saying this putt's a cup out left from 20 feet.
Were you always like going back to your youth golf days? Were you always kind of like that was your putting was your thing? That's what.
No, I honestly like I probably started playing competitive golf when I was like 8 or 9, maybe 10. Started playing some tournaments. And no, I actually struggled a little bit. To the point where like, man, I was playing really well, but shooting pretty poor scores because I was having 38 putts around. And I think it just like kind of lit a fire in me. Like, man, if I want to like, I'm playing good. If I want to be like good at golf, like, I can't be putting like this. I'm putting like a 2-year-old out here. So I think it just kind of lit a fire in me, and then just gradually kept getting better. By the time I got to 8th grade high school, I was getting to be a really good putter. And, just like I said, the process of like experience and trial and error and finding out what works for me was just like, it was just me always trying to find a way to get better. And like, I just kind of found little things here and there that like I would stick, like just trying things and like, oh no, that doesn't really work for me, or like trying something like, ooh, I really like this, and sticking with it or something.
You did go to, you spent your high school years at, I think, the only high school that's got its own golf course in the DC area. I don't know how many holes are left, like 5 or 7. Have you been back there?
I never played the old course. So like the old course used to wrap around like the whole school, and that doesn't exist anymore. That's like, that's a new baseball field. That's a parking lot now. So it's all right in front. Right,
this
on
is Georgetown
Rockville
Prep, in case anybody.
Georgetown Prep. Yeah. Yep. So it's right in front of Boland Hall, the main building at Prep, right up in front of the school. It's probably like, I played it a few times when I was there. It's probably like 6 or 7 holes, and you can make it 9 holes by, having an alternate tee or an alternate green and kind of mix matching a tee and like, another green. You can make it 9 holes. I probably haven't been there in 10 years or so, but
is that the practice course for the team?
No, they play their matches at other courses. We played Norbeck a bunch when I was there. We played Argyle a handful of times. We played Columbia Country Club a handful of times. They might use it to maybe mess around here and there, but I don't think they're going out there to practice and work on their game that much. I think it's just kind of like a for fun thing, and for like the prep golf camp.
So I don't know if you knew this. I posted this on Instagram, but my question to you in the press conference last week was my very first question as a credentialed media in a press conference, and asked you about some hoops, and didn't know that you were going to shoot around with Anthony Gill. Was that put together by the PGA Tour? Because I saw their video about it later.
Yeah, so they approached me in Hilton Head, 2 or 3 weeks prior to TPC Potomac, Wells Fargo. They're like, we know you played basketball in high school, and we know you're a pretty good shooter. Would you be interested if we set something up with you and a Wizards player at their arena or their practice facility? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I would love that. And then they contacted me, a week before the tournament saying, we set something up for you to shoot with Anthony Gill, who's on the Wizards. He went to UVA. Would you be interested in doing this Tuesday afternoon at so-and-so? I'm like, yep, done. I'd love to. And so honestly, that was a nice little break. It was like, I'd done some nice prep work like Sunday, Monday. And then I got out there Tuesday morning and did some nice work. And like, I didn't need to do much else. Like I practiced a little, but my work on the course was done. So like, that was just like a nice little break. I spent the whole afternoon playing basketball, shooting hoops, something else I love to do outside of golf. Like, I was still being active, but like, that was something nice to just kind of like take me away from the golf course a little bit. And that was so much fun. Like, I have a basketball hoop in my backyard at my house, and I shoot every now and then, but I hadn't really shot in a while. So to kind of walk in there and feel like it was just like riding a bike was pretty cool. I shot really well, and that I did miss a few shots for everyone wondering out there. The video makes it seem like I never missed. I missed a few, but I did shoot the ball very well in those few hours.
I want to talk a little bit about. I'm kind of a hoops head. I've been a Wizard season ticket holder for too long. I got Wizard season tickets the day after they drafted John Wall, so it's been a little bit of a tough run, but a couple good years there. What do you follow more? Do you follow UVA hoops or NBA?
I follow UVA more. I don't really watch that much NBA regular season. It just doesn't really do it for me. The excitement's just not there. Like I watch a couple regular season games. Like, I love watching the Warriors, Steph Curry. I love the way they play basketball. Like, they're just zipping the ball around, moving the ball around, just getting open shots. Like, I love the way that the Warriors play. So to me, like, Steph Curry, if I'm awake and he's on TV, like, I feel like he's I need to watch it for at least like 30 minutes. Like, I need to watch what he does. Like, it's he's just an incredible athlete. Like what he's done is amazing, and I love watching him. He's like I'm a little jealous of like Steph Curry. Like that's like basketball was my first love. Like I want to be someone like Steph Curry. Like I wish I was out there running around like shooting 3-pointers in front of a huge crowd, and he does it, and he puts on a show every night. Like he's must watch TV. And I've been following some of these playoff games. It's hard to watch those West Coast games. They come on at 10 o'clock, like especially the last week or two. I've been tired. I'm in bed by 10:30. So I watched a little bit of like the Bucks Celtics game last night. That's going to be a good series now, tied 2-2. But I'd say I watch UVA basketball whenever they're on TV. If I have the chance to watch it, I'm watching UVA basketball.
Yes, I saw somebody tweeted out after that video of the PGA Tour and you draining threes that, you know, UVA sometimes struggles a little bit on the offensive side of the floor that maybe
they do.
You get some minutes out there. Have you been following the Steph Curry Howard golf story there and the donation?
Not really. I know about it, and I know just through Argyle. I'm pretty sure that he gave them a membership or bought a membership for the players to practice at Argyle, I believe.
That's so that became their home course. I actually went out to Argyle a couple weeks ago, and the Howard University golf team, they held their MEAC conference championship at Argyle, which they won just a couple weeks ago.
Right. So I feel like somebody mentioned that to me a little while ago, but like I was playing Argyle. Maybe when I came back for Christmas, or maybe it was just last week, but my brother's the president at Argyle, and he mentioned that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Like I kind of knew that in the back of my head, but just somebody saying it again, I was like, oh, that's right. Like they do play here, and Steph did kind of hook them up here. Like that's awesome. I think that's so cool. And I know Steph's an avid golfer, so I'm sure he just wants those kids to have a place to play and like just have fun. And totally. I think it's really cool what he's doing.
So have you been at Argyle since like way back when? Like how long you been at Argyle?
Yeah, I mean, my parents grew up members there. Not grew up members there, but I've been a member. My parents have since I was a baby. So I grew up playing junior golf there. We have a couple pictures. I don't know if my parents still have them, but like I'm like 2 years old with like a little cut down club, and like I'm teeing up like a rainbow colored ball in the ground or something at Argyle when I was like 2 or 3 years old. So I literally, as I began to walk, like I was playing golf, like holes out at Argyle with my dad. And so that's my second home. That's where I learned how to play golf. And that's where I grew up loving the game. Argyle was so good. There were so many, it's just such a great place to go play golf. Like it's definitely not like the most challenging course, but it's a great place to learn how to like go like hit shots. There's a lot of hilly, uneven lies, like great place to just learn how to like score and like figure out how to get the ball in the hole, if that makes sense. Like it was just such a fun course to play growing up and have kids my age to go play with. Argyle was always so great with like letting the juniors, like very friendly to the juniors, to just be able to let them come out and basically play whenever. Very lucky to grow up at a place like Argyle.
What about just golf in general in this area? I mean, you were one of the most decorated kind of youth golfers, amateur golfers that came out of this area, multiple Walker Cups, Maryland State Amateur Championship, like 2 or 3 times. How many times did you win that Maryland Amateur?
I won the Maryland Am twice and the Maryland Open 3 times.
Wow. And Junior Ryder Cup.
Junior Ryder Cup, World Am, and Walker Cup. So next step is President's Cup and Ryder Cup.
There we go. And maybe you'll still be around when the Ryder Cup comes back to Congressional, which is, I don't even, like 14 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah. The golf in this area is amazing. Like, Woodmont, grew up playing the Bobby Gore in there. We played the South course, but now I get to play the North course all the time for the US Open sectional. Baltimore Country Club, unbelievable. They have 2 courses there. The East course is obviously phenomenal. They've had talk. I think they used to have a Champions Tour event there, and been some talks that there could be a a tour event event there. Columbia Country Club, another place that I love, like Hilly, Donald Ross, like all back to front, fast greens, got to think your way around. Like there's so many courses around here that are just like all great golf courses, but all different
Sure.
styles. And it's just such a great area for golf.
Have you played Congressional since the redo?
I haven't. I actually drove by it pretty much every day, and just seeing it looks so different. There's no trees. I actually pulled up. I got backed up right when I was on like where the 5th hole is of the blue course on Bradley Road. I don't know if you're familiar with where that is. I was basically leaving the course one day. I was backed up at that light, like the intersection of like Bradley and River Road. Mm-hmm. And I was like sitting there, and I pulled up Google Earth, and I literally went through every hole of the blue course because I hadn't really seen it and I haven't been there. So I went through every hole in the blue course to look at the routing and what they did to change each hole. And I thought it looked unbelievable. I've heard, obviously you can't see what the green contours are on Google Earth. But the greens, I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard a lot of people that like it. And I've heard a lot of people say that the greens are a little too much. I guess they put a lot of humps and bumps and ridges in the greens. So it sounds like some holes could probably be a little too much. Some holes could probably, some holes probably work really well. I don't know. But I'd love to get out there and play it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I haven't been out there since the renovation. I've been on the property to look at it, but I haven't played it. But excited to see, because the KPMG LPGA championships there next month.
Okay, is it really? I didn't know that.
The last week in June. So that's kind of it's time to shine on TV. So I'm excited about that.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that if I'm not in town. I'm gonna have to get that on the TV and take a look at the course.
So you call well, before I'm gonna get to Jupiter where you call home now. Being as good as you were, as young as you were, playing the courses you were, did you play any or much? And I only asked this coming from, because I mean, while you were playing Argyle, I was playing Northwest right across the street. Did you play much public golf at all in the area?
No, maybe some Titleist tour events growing up. I have played Northwest Park probably 2 or 3 times. I was little. I'm trying to think where else I would have played. I've definitely played some high school matches at like Needwood. I don't know if you know where Needwood is.
I played it a ton.
Played some high school matches at Needwood. I'm trying to think. There's definitely some more in there.
Have you ever stepped foot on any of the
Hampshire Greens? I played Hampshire Greens a handful of times growing up. I think there was a Maryland State Junior at Hampshire Greens when I was like 13, maybe 12 or 13. So I have played a handful of public golf courses in the area.
You mentioned that you normally do the US Open Qualifier at Woodmont.
I've done it the last like 7 years at Woodmont. I'm actually not doing it there this year. I'm actually doing it in Columbus. Because I'm playing Colonial and Memorial back-to-back weeks, and I'm already going to be in Columbus. And it worked out well last year because I missed the cut, so I was able to come home. But if I play well at Memorial, which I plan on doing, it would be really hard to fly Sunday night to get back to Maryland, and then I would have to go play 36 the next day. Whereas and it's only 2 or 3 spots at Woodmont out of 100 guys, whereas the Columbus site, it's the most tour pros there, but they give out like 16 spots there. So it's easier this year. I haven't played my best at Woodmont the last few years, so I'm gonna give it a rest for this year. But I definitely plan on. I don't know if I want to say plan on it, because I'd like to just be automatically qualified for the U.S. Open in years to come. But for this year, I'm gonna play the Columbus site. Hopefully, have a great week at Memorial, and then qualify for the U.S. Open the day after, and be at Brookline, because that place is sweet, and I'd really like to play in this one.
Yeah. That would be awesome. Have you ever to do a total 180 on quality or on prestige, of course, have you ever stepped foot on any of the the courses in DC, like East Potomac and the shadow of the Washington Monument?
No, I have some high school buddies that have played East Potomac a handful of times. It looks like a fun golf course. I mean, it looks like it's pretty open. You can kind of just like hit it, go find it, and hit it again.
Sure.
Which is when golf is fun. It's like I can just step up and make a free swing and not worry about it going out of bounds. That's just what the course looks like. I don't know what it is actually, but when my buddies
it is that for the most part.
Yeah, when my buddies have posted like pictures and videos of it, I'm like, man, that place looks wide open, but kind of looks fun to play.
Well, there's a great, and this is related because it's a fellow pro golfer from UVA. I can't remember what year this was, but Steve Marino played East Potomac with a Washington Post journalist. Like, Stevie. I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. It's a really funny article because he plays with journalists in East Potomac, and it's just, what would a pro shoot? I don't remember what he shot, but it wasn't as good as you would think. Yeah. And this is what when he was still relatively new on tour. And the only quote I remember, you can still find it online. The article is just like, how the heck does anybody make any putts out there?
Yeah, I'm gonna look this up, and because I play with Steve a decent amount at home in Jupiter. He lives down there too. We're both members at Medalist, and I actually played with Steve Friday before I flew home Friday night last week, and I played with Steve that Friday morning, and he was actually coming up here to Monday qualify. He missed in a playoff
at Cattail. I saw that by like a stroke.
Creek. Yeah, well, he was in the playoff. He was in a 4-for-1 playoff.
He was.
Yeah, he was. So that's funny that you bring that up because I literally just played with him and he was just up here.
I have not met Steve. He's on my list of people I'd love to have on this podcast.
He's
local, but I've heard he's quite a character.
I think, yeah, he is quite the character. Maybe I think I need to set you up with him he needs to come on this podcast because you'd have a great chat with him.
That would be awesome. There's a few UVA guys. I'm not super Ben Coles. He was
Ben Coles. Yeah, he's good. I played the team event, the Zurich, with him 3 weeks ago. Great buddy of mine. He was for any UVA people out there, he was a fourth year when I was a first year. He was a senior when I was a freshman. But if you went to UVA, you have to say fourth year, first year.
They don't use the terminology freshman, sophomore, junior, senior.
No, yeah, they go. It's first year, second year, third year, fourth year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what you're supposed to say. So there you go, all you UVA people that listen to this. But yeah, I only spent 1 year with him at UVA. We had a great team that year, and he actually won his first 2 events as a pro. So he graduated in 2012, played a couple amateur events. Played in some amateur events, and like his last one was like the Porter Cup, which might have been like my first or second time playing in the Porter Cup. And he played well and finished like 30th or 40th. But he was like, I'm playing well. He's like, I'm just saving it all for next week. And what he meant by that was he got a sponsor invite into the web.com event I think he was like second or third team All-American that year. And back then, if you were an All-American, you got a sponsor invite into the nationwide, the St. Jude. No, it was just the nationwide at the web event at Columbus, in Columbus, Ohio. And he got a sponsor invite. He turned pro for it and won, and then won the next week on the web.com. So he was basically solidified. He locked up his PGA Tour card by winning 2 weeks in a row. And then he kind of struggled after that and spent 5 or 6 years on the web tour, now the Korn Ferry Tour, and this is his first year back on the PGA Tour. So it's good to have him out there, and it's good to see him back playing some good golf.
Does he have Crunchy Pete on his bag?
Yes, he does have Crunchy Pete on his bag.
Did I see somewhere that maybe like your aunt and uncle put up some of the caddies? Including him?
So my Uncle Mike and Aunt Kim put up my caddy. My caddy stayed with them, and Crunchy Pete and Crunchy Pete's twin brother both stayed with my aunt and uncle. So I think they had fun.
That's funny. Do you remember because somebody had told me that you were maybe like I guess for basketball, a ball boy at University of Maryland when you were a kid?
Yeah. Growing up, Gary Williams, like early 2000s. unbelievable. That was so much fun. I grew up a huge Maryland basketball fan, and that probably like helped my love for basketball. Like, you know, I started playing like team basketball when I was in, you know, kindergarten, first grade, you know, rec leagues and stuff. And then, you know, on the side, I was going to Maryland basketball games and ball boying and sitting underneath the hoop and watching these, you know, those great early 2000 Maryland teams play as like, and I had a front row seat to it.
Sure.
And I'm on the court with them, you know, giving them passes before the game. It was like, you know, it was as cool as it gets.
Gary's a big golfer. He's a member at Manor, right? Or am I making that up?
I don't know if he might be.
Yeah,
I think he might be a member at Burning Tree too. I learned all my I learned all my cuss words from Gary Williams too.
Oh yeah. I went to Gary Williams basketball camp a couple times. Big fan of his. Was Maryland ever in the discussion instead of UVA for you?
No, never. I wanted to get somewhat away from home. UVA was perfect. It was everything I was looking for in a school, golf program, coaches, practice facility. And it was close enough to home, but also just far enough away where it's like, I can come back whenever, my parents can come see me whenever, but we don't need to make this like an every week occurrence type of thing. It was, you know, 2.5 hours away. It was good distance. I wanted to be on a team that, you know, had a chance to win ACC tournaments and national championships. And we had some really good teams at UVA. I don't think I quite would have been able to do that at Maryland.
I got to ask you about another golfer who did your exact same path, Georgetown Prep to UVA, a guy that I was not familiar with, but I have a hilarious story meeting. Greg
Carlin?
No. His name's Kevin O'Connell.
Oh, Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell is, there's only one. There are probably many Kevin O'Connells in the world, but there is only one Kevin O'Connell, and it is that Kevin O'Connell. I mean, he is something else, let me tell you. He texts me all the time too, and he's so funny. I'll just get like this parade of text messages from him, like, be an athlete, you're pure, keep being pure, keep UVA golf dominates, wins majors, like keep dominating and winning majors. I'm like, I haven't won any majors yet, Kevin, but like just the stuff he says, like I actually laugh out loud when I'm like reading his text messages. Like he's what, 8 or 10 years older than you? Yeah, he's got to be close to 40, I'd say. Okay. And like he might have been on the team. Like you mentioned Marino, like James Driscoll's down in Jupiter too. I play with James Driscoll a little bit as well. I don't know if all three of them were on a team together. But Kevin O'Connell, that's so funny you bring him up. He was actually out there this week too. He sent me a video and a picture of me. Oh, he was at Avenel, really? He was, yeah, he was. Interesting. I met him. This was like 3 or 4 years ago. Me and a couple buddies were down kind of in the Delaware area. We did a golf trip that coincided with Washington National spring training. Yeah, and he lives in Fort Lauderdale. Right. And we're at a bar after one of our rounds, and I'm wearing a Palm Beach par 3 hat. And he says something about the golf course. We start talking, and we got along well quick. And next thing you know, we're bar hopping together, and he's giving all my buddies like golf tips, and that's so funny. It was hilarious. That is so funny. It was a hilarious night, and we've stayed in touch on social media. Yeah, he's I'm not surprised you met him out. I'm not surprised you met him out at a bar. And that's funny. I mean, I remember the first time I like actually met him and talked to him, like he's very personable. Like he's just so like easygoing, and like you can get to like know him and talking to him like super easily. So that instance that you had with him does not surprise me one bit. That's funny. So I will ask, so you've been down in Jupiter for a while now. Jupiter is like the hub for PGA Tour professionals, and it's been a few articles. Golf Digest wrote a big thing, I think, a few months ago about like the lifestyle of Jupiter golf. Like, paint us a little bit of a scene of what Jupiter looks like. I mean, and have you played Michael Jordan's course? That's on my list. Yes, I have. Jupiter, if you like if you like being on the water, going on boats, if you like having the beach right there at your disposal, if you like unbelievable food, great restaurants, and if you like really good golf courses, that's a great place to live. And I love all those things. So,
But I mean, are you going out to grab something to eat and just bumping into other tour guys or what?
No, because the Ricky Fowlers and the Brooks Koepkas and the Tiger Woods down there, they're not really going to restaurants because they would probably get noticed very easily. Me, I'm still at the point in my career where I'm very much under the radar and people don't really know who I am. So it's like, I feel like, it's a good thing now. Like, obviously I want to be playing great golf and winning tournaments, and maybe getting noticed comes with that. I don't even care about that, but I like being able to go out to nice restaurants and going out and having fun with buddies. So to be able to do that and not be interrupted is great. I'm just like a normal person in Jupiter, which is what I want. And the golf courses are obviously unbelievable down there. I mean, you can throw a stick and it'll probably land on an unbelievable golf course down there. And
you did tell, I won't have you tell it again, but I encourage anybody, I listened to it. There's another, he's actually a local guy, Garrett Johnston does a podcast, and he had you on, and you told a great story about
Tiger.
your first time playing with Tiger. Yeah. At Medalist, right?
Yeah. Do you want me to give you a quick?
Give me the quick one for listeners here.
Yeah. So I had been playing. This was like a month into shutdown COVID mode. I had been playing with a couple other guys like Peter Uline, Matt Wolf, Bud Cauley, Don Bazzelli, Max. I've been playing games with other guys for 3 weeks, 3 to 5 times a week, money games. Everything else was shut down, but golf was open. So it was fun. We were still out, it was, the whole world was kind of shutting down, but it was fun. Restaurants were open outside. So we could do some things, but golf was the best thing to do. And it was fun to go play money matches 3 to 5 times a week, whatever. And so I showed up there one day and I didn't really have a game lined up. I was just kind of low on energy. I worked out that morning and I just felt kind of tired. And then I saw JT and Ricky, who I know pretty well. Justin's my age. Ricky, I had played with a handful of times. And they're like, yeah, we're going to go play some holes. We haven't played in a couple weeks. We took some off time. I was like, all right, I'll come play some holes with you guys. And so we start hitting balls, and then all of a sudden Tiger shows up on the range. And JT and Ricky start talking with him, and I'm like, man, are they playing with Tiger? And did I just crash their little group? And I was on the range. Tiger just dropped his bag right next to me, and all of a sudden my lethargic, no energy turns into I just have all the energy in the world, and I'm just all jacked up. And And I had met Tiger, I wore Nike stuff my first 4 years as a pro. So I had met him at a Nike dinner during the Honda Classic, my first year living down in Jupiter. So I had met him before. He probably didn't really remember me, but I was like, hey, Tiger, I met you at, the dinner at your restaurant at the Woods, 5 years ago. Denny, nice to meet you. He was like, yeah, good to see you again, man. I don't know if you remember me or not. He said, good to see you. He remembered who I was. And I was like, okay, that's good enough for me. And then I, headed over towards the putting green area. And then we're about to tee off, and I'm pretty nervous because I know the Tiger is playing with us now. And I'm thinking we're going to play a huge money game. And I'm I'm just literally, that's the most nervous I've ever been. But it was so cool because it was I felt I was playing a Sunday of a major with Tiger, and that's what it felt like. We hopped on the first tee, but they didn't really want to play a game because they hadn't been playing. JT and Ricky are we just want to hit it around. We all had our own carts because it was still COVID, so we're playing a foursome with 4 carts, and it was kind of just a hit and giggle round, just hitting shots for fun. But in my mind, I'm kind of treating it man, I kind of want to play. I'm nervous. I'm treating it like a real round because I want to play well in front of Tiger. I made some shaky pars on 1 and 2, good up and downs from the bunkers on 1 and 2. And then I birdied 3, 4. Can't remember what holes I birdied, but I hit it to a tap in on 9. And I'm man, I just turned in 5 under, bogey free 5 under on the front. That was pretty good. And we're playing the Tiger tees, which is like, you have the black tees at Medalist, which is like 7,200 yards. And the Tiger tees are a separate set of tees that are much farther back. So wow. I'm going well over the 30 seconds to a minute that I told you, by the way.
It's a great story. Keep going.
I figured whoever is listening to this podcast will love this story.
Yeah.
But so I turn, I'm like, shit, like I'm 5 under. And then I start to get like, I was like comfortable, relaxed. Like we're shooting the shit with Tiger, having a good time. And then I'm like, then I start thinking about my score because, you know, it's only natural. Like I just counted up that I shot 5 under. And then I make like 2 back-to-back great putts on like 10, 11 for birdie. And so I'm 7 under through 11. I birdie 13, a par 5, 8 under through 13. I'm like approaching course record from the Tiger tee, playing with Tiger. I'm like, I mean, now that's just like, it became a little too much for me. And then I'm like, now I'm like not focused on like, just like having a good time and talking with them. Now I'm like trying to like, in my mind, I'm like, man, I'm 8 under through 13. I like, it'd be pretty cool to shoot the course record or tie the course record.
Is he acknowledging this heater you're on?
They knew I was making putts. Like I made a couple putts and he was like, gee, like, he was like, man, like I missed a putt. And he was like, I finally missed a putt. He was like, what the hell happened there? Like, what's wrong? What's wrong with you now? Like, how come you're not making that one? So it was such a fast round. We played in like 2.5 hours, and like everyone was just kind of like firing shots while other people were hitting shots. I don't know if they necessarily knew that I was like 8 under. They knew I was playing well, but I knew I was 8 under. I think I made a birdie and a bogey coming in. I ended up shooting like 8 under, but it was just really cool, especially just in that atmosphere. He was super talkative, like super relaxed and chill. And this was the week of the Masters. So he had just won it in 19. He won the Masters in 19. And then, you know, his game was sharp that day. Like he was ready for the Masters that year. Like his game was,
this is 2020 when the
this
Masters
is 2020.
got delayed.
This is a year later after he won the Masters, but we're playing like the day we played was like during like the week of the Masters. It might've even been, because they shut down. When did everything get shut down? Like mid-March.
The second week of March, right?
Yeah, mid-March. So
yeah,
the Masters was coming up in 2 weeks, basically, a couple weeks after the Players when we got shut down. And that's kind of when we played. We played like the first or second week of April when the Masters would have been going on. And his game was looking good. Like he was flushing irons, flagging irons, driving it straight. Like I was like, man, this is really cool. Tiger's just being Tiger in front of me right now.
That's awesome. I mean, do you think Tiger? Awesome. I mean, at the time, you were the #1 putter on tour. I mean, Tiger's.
Yeah,
you think Tiger's aware of that?
I don't know. He never said anything to me about it. Like that could be just one of those things. Like he might have known, but like didn't say anything, or he could just not know at all. Like I have no idea. I'm not gonna go up to him and be like, you know, once I made some putts, I wasn't going to be like, hey, you know, I'm the #1 putter in the world right now. Like, I don't know how that would have gone over with him. So I didn't say anything like that.
A little reminder.
Yeah.
That's cool.
He was also, he was like, oh, you're the #1 putter in the world. Well, try being the #1 golfer in the world for like 15 years. He could have said something like that.
Have you played with him since?
I haven't. No, I've seen him out there a bunch. I think I truly like crashed their game that day. Like he plays with JT out there a bunch. Like those two are like legit like best friends now. Like they're always playing. I see them playing with each other all the time down there now. Interesting.
One thing I noticed, not to change gears, I'm gonna let you go here in a minute because we've gone an hour here, and this has been great. I really appreciate it. You're not the most active guy on social media. Do you see that changing anytime soon?
Maybe, yeah. I've just never been that kind of way. Like I have an Instagram and I, you know, make some posts every now and then. And, I just feel like I don't need to share what I'm doing all the time with everybody. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I could see myself maybe ramping it up a little bit. like my downtime to be like my downtime and my personal life to kind of like stay my personal life at moments. So I don't know. I could see myself ramping it up a little bit, but that's just never been who I am. I look at stuff on social media every now and then. I'm more of a looker than a actually doing stuff on there. But who knows? I could never know. I could change.
How often do you get back up to this area?
Christmas and Thanksgiving. Maybe a few other times, like in the spring, summer. If I have a couple weeks off in the summer, I'll come up here for a week or so. But not as much as I'd like to. But then again, like I told you, Jupiter's, if you like all those things that I mentioned about Jupiter, it's kind of hard to leave there. And everyone's like, oh, it's so hot in Jupiter in the summer. I'm like, well, it's pretty hot in Maryland in the summer too. It's just as humid. It's just as humid and hot. And I get the ocean down there. I mean, I have a pool in my backyard, and the ocean's 10 minutes away if I want to go and cool myself off. So. Right.
What about, so you have your family, you got a bunch of athletes in your family. Tell us about your siblings. You got like a sister who's like actively playing college lacrosse?
So my older brother played at Loyola University in Baltimore. He played golf. And then it's me, and then my sister Christina played lacrosse at JMU, and then she did a 5th year and played at Georgetown. And then my youngest sister Michaela is currently a junior, just finished up her junior year at Virginia Tech, and she plays lacrosse. So we have four D1 athletes in the family. So pretty cool that all of us, I'm sure Michaela felt a little pressure. The 3 siblings above her all played D1 sports, so I'm sure she felt a little pressure to kind of follow the mold.
Did either your parents, were they big athletes?
No, my dad's a good golfer. My dad played at JMU, I think, for a year or two. My uncle Mike played at JMU all 4 years. So my dad's dad, who passed away in 2010 or 11. But my dad's dad, Frank McCarthy, who we called Bud, were kind of like the big catalysts in getting us into the game. There's most of the guys on my dad's side of the family, cousins and everything, most of us grew up playing golf. So big golf family on the guy's side for sure.
Got it. Very cool. Well, we'll leave it there. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. This was great. I thought you did the DC area proud, Montgomery County proud, and the Wells Fargo Championship. A lot of fun. I took a whole bunch of pictures of that second 9 on Thursday, and I was literally in the middle of making an Instagram post when you texted back about the podcast, and I said, okay, I'll hold off on that.
Okay, so you can. I'll take a look at your post. Okay. I'm pretty sure I follow you on there. I don't know if I'll take a look at it.
All good. But no, this is great. I appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck, and we'll be following along. Thank you very much, Denny, for coming on the Beltway Golf Podcast.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And we just need to get the DC event back here as an annual event.
Absolutely, 100%. All right, thanks, Denny.
Right. Yeah, thanks for having me.
I don't have a good golf game, but I don't really care. I'm a regular dude living in DC. And I want to know about DC-centric golf stuff. If you can tell me something that I don't already know, then that is great for me. I don't want the regular stuff. I want exciting stuff. I want different stuff. I want stuff I can't hear elsewhere. But I want it to be about DC golf.